The stars shone like distant diamonds against the black canvas of space. The U.S. Reliance cut through the void, its engines humming with power as it patrolled the outer edges of Saturn's rings. Captain Ethan Powell stood on the bridge, his experienced eyes scanning the tactical displays. "All systems normal, Captain," reported Officer Ben Collins from his station. "Routine patrol proceeding as planned." Powell nodded. At 42, he'd spent nearly half his life in space. The Reliance wasn't the newest ship in Earth's small fleet, but she was reliable, just as her name suggested. With humanity's expansion to Mars and Europa still in its early stages, these patrol missions were essential to mapping safe routes for civilian transports. "Captain," called Natalie Wright, the communication officer. Her voice carried an unusual edge. "I'm picking up something strange at coordinates 227 Mark 54. Powell moved to her station. "Define strange, Officer Wright." "Unknown signature, sir. It's not matching anything in our database." Her fingers danced across the control panel. "It's big, whatever it is." Chief Engineer Louis Reyes joined them, his dark eyes narrowing at the readings. "That's no asteroid or natural formation. The energy output is substantial." Powell straightened his uniform. "Yellow alert. Lieutenant Kelly, adjust course to intercept. Let's keep our distance but get a visual." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Reliance changed direction, slowing as it approached the coordinates. The main view screen flickered, and then displayed their target. "My God," whispered Powell. The alien vessel hung in space like a jagged obsidian knife. It was at least 3 times the size of the Reliance, with strange protrusions that might have been weapons or sensors. Its surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "First contact," said Wright, her voice barely audible. "We've found them. Or they found us." "Open a channel," ordered Powell. "Standard greeting package, all frequencies." Wright's hands worked quickly. "Transmitting now, sir." The bridge fell silent as they waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. "No response, Captain," Wright finally reported. "I'll try again with—" Her words cut off as the alien ship suddenly flared with energy. The vessel's strange appendages began to glow with an eerie purple light. "They're powering up something," shouted Reyes. "Captain, those are weapons." "Red alert," Powell commanded. "Shields up." Evasive maneuvers. The Reliance barely began to move when the alien beam struck. The ship rocked violently, throwing crew members from their stations. Sparks erupted from consoles, and emergency lights flashed on. "Direct hit to our port side." Reyes yelled over the blaring alarms. "Shields at 30%. "Return fire," ordered Powell. The Reliance's weapons officer, Jack Winters, fired the ship's defensive lasers. They seemed to glance off the alien vessel's hull with minimal effect. Another blast from the alien ship hit them, more powerful than the first. The bridge shuddered, and several stations exploded in showers of sparks. "We've lost engines," screamed Reyes through the smoke, life support failing. Powell grabbed the ship-wide comm. "All hands, abandon ship. Proceed to escape pods immediately." Wright worked frantically at her damaged console. "Captain, I'm sending a distress signal to Earth with all our sensor data." Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead. "They need to know what's coming." The ship groaned around them as its structural integrity began to fail. Powell helped an injured crew member toward the escape pod access. "Get that signal out." "Right. Then get to a pod." Outside, the alien vessel moved closer, firing again and again. The Reliance was breaking apart, pieces of hull drifting away into the void. Only 3 escape pods launched successfully before the ship's main reactor went critical. From her pod, Wright watched through tears as the Reliance exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The alien ship didn't even pause. It simply adjusted course and continued on its trajectory toward Earth. Inside the cramped escape pod, Powell, Wright, and Reyes drifted in stunned silence. They were alive, but they had just witnessed the beginning of something terrible. Humanity's first contact with alien life had gone catastrophically wrong, and they were the only ones who knew what was coming. The escape pod drifted through the cold emptiness of space. Inside, Captain Ethan Powell, Communication Officer Natalie Wright, and Engineering Specialist Louis Reyes huddled together for warmth as the pod's limited life support system struggled to keep them alive. 5 days had passed since the destruction of the U.S. Reliance. Battery power at 17%, Reyes reported, his voice hoarse from thirst. We have maybe 2 more days before life support fails completely. Wright adjusted the emergency beacon again. Still no response to our distress signal. Powell stared out the small viewport at the distant stars. Most of his crew was gone. He had failed them. Now he might fail Earth too if they couldn't deliver their warning. Try a different frequency, he ordered Wright. Someone must be out there. Just as Wright began adjusting the communications array, the pod shuddered. We're caught in some kind of beam. Reyes shouted, checking the external sensors. Powell moved to the viewport. A large mining vessel had appeared, its tractor beam pulling their pod toward its docking bay. The Jupiter Mining Corporation logo, Powell said with relief. It's one of ours. 3 hours later, the 3 survivors sat in the medical bay of the J&C Rockhopper. The ship's doctor, Carla Martinez, finished treating their dehydration and minor injuries. You're lucky we found you, she said, putting away her medical scanner. We were heading back from Ganymede when we picked up your signal. The ship's captain, Frank Ortiz, entered the medical bay. I've informed Lunar Base of your rescue. Admiral Victoria Grant wants to speak with you immediately. Powell nodded grimly. How soon can we reach the moon? 3 days at full burn, Ortiz replied. What happened out there, Powell? Your ship just disappeared. We were attacked, Powell said simply, and they're coming for Earth next. 72 hours later, Powell, Wright, and Reyes stood before Admiral Victoria Grant in the secure briefing room of Lunar Base Alpha. The Admiral was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen decades of service. Tell me everything, she commanded. Powell recounted their encounter with the alien vessel while Wright displayed the sensor data she had managed to save. Reyes added technical details about the alien weapon systems. The energy readings were off the charts, Reyes explained. Their weapons cut through our shields like they weren't even there. Admiral Grant studied the holographic display of the alien ship, and you believe they're headed to Earth. Yes, Mom, Wright confirmed. Based on their trajectory after destroying the Reliance, they're on a direct course for our solar system. They didn't even try to communicate. They just attacked. The Admiral pressed a button on the table. The door opened, and 5 serious-looking people in civilian clothes entered. This is the Earth Defense Council, Grant explained. They need to hear this too. The briefing continued for hours. Scientists analyzed the data, asking detailed questions about everything the survivors had witnessed. Dr. Alan Garrett, the chief scientist, finally spoke. Based on these readings, we're looking at a technologically superior force. Their propulsion, weapons, and shield technology are all beyond our current capabilities. How long do we have? Asked Councilwoman Joan Winters. At their current speed, Dr. Garrett replied, approximately 3 months before they reach Earth. The room fell silent. Admiral Grant stood. Then we have 3 months to prepare. She turned to Powell. Captain, I'm activating Project Bastion. Powell's eyes widened. Bastion. It's ready. Nearly, Grant replied. It was designed for exactly this scenario. First contact gone wrong. She brought up a new hologram showing a sleek warship unlike anything Earth had built before. The UNSS Defender, she announced. Earth's first true warship, built in secret at the Olympus shipyards on Mars. And Captain Powell, I'm giving her to you. But Admiral, Powell protested, I just lost my ship, my crew. And now you have the chance to make sure their deaths weren't in vain. Grant interrupted. You've seen these aliens in action. You know what we're up against. I need you for this." Powell looked at Wright and Reyes, whom nodded in silent support. "When do we leave for Mars?" he asked. "Immediately," Grant answered. "The clock is ticking." The Olympus shipyards on Mars were hidden beneath the shadow of the massive volcano they were named after. Captain Powell stared through the transport's viewport as they approached the secret facility. The massive doors of the underground hangar slid open, revealing a cavernous space cut from the Martian bedrock. Inside floated the UNSS Defender. "She's beautiful," whispered Natalie Wright, standing beside him. The ship was unlike any vessel Powell had seen before. Sleek and predatory, its hull gleamed with a dark metallic finish. It was smaller than the Reliance, but looked far more dangerous. "Project Bastion began 5 years ago," explained Admiral Grant as they docked with the facility. "After we discovered the ruins on Europa, we knew we weren't alone in the galaxy. We hoped first contact would be peaceful, but we needed to be prepared." Louis Reyes pressed his face against the glass. "Those aren't standard thrusters. And those weapon mounts. This isn't just a defensive vessel." "No," Grant agreed. "The Defender was built to fight." They boarded the shipyard's main hub and were greeted by a small woman with intense eyes and grease-stained coveralls. "Chief Engineer Alicia Delgado," she introduced herself, not offering to shake hands. "I've been working on this ship for 3 years. She's not finished." "You have 3 weeks to finish her," Admiral Grant said firmly. Delgado's eyes widened. "That's impossible. The shield generators alone need at least 2 months of testing." "The aliens will be here in 3 months," Powell countered. "We need this ship ready." Delgado sighed heavily. "Then we'd better get to work." The next days were a blur of activity. Powell selected his crew from the best officers available, while Reyes worked with Delgado on the ship's systems. Wright developed new communication protocols in case they could establish contact with the aliens. Dr. Marcus Stanley, a thin man with thick glasses, arrived from Earth to fine-tune the ship's weapon systems. "The targeting computers are still having issues tracking at full speed," he explained to Powell during their daily briefing. "The energy weapons generate too much heat for rapid fire." Powell studied the schematics. "Keep working on it. We'll need every advantage we can get." At night, alone in his temporary quarters, Powell was haunted by nightmares. He saw his old crew dying again and again as the Reliance exploded around them. He would wake gasping, drenched in sweat. During one such night, there was a knock at his door. Wright stood there, her own eyes showing similar sleepless nights. "The Psych Evil says you're unfit for command," she said without preamble. "You have PTSD from the attack." Powell looked away. "Grant will replace me." "No, she won't," Wright replied. "I deleted the report. We need you, Captain. No one else has seen these aliens in action." 2 weeks into their accelerated schedule, Reyes made a breakthrough. He burst into the command center where Powell was reviewing tactical simulations. "I found something in our sensor logs from the attack," he exclaimed, pulling up the data. "There's a pattern to their shield modulation. Every 47 seconds, there's a tiny fluctuation." "Could we exploit that?" Powell asked. "Maybe. If we time our weapons fire precisely to that moment, we might be able to penetrate their shields." Admiral Grant called a meeting the next day. The mood was grim as Dr. Stanley presented his findings. "Based on our simulations using the Reliance data, even with the Defender at full capacity, we would be severely outmatched in a direct confrontation with multiple alien vessels." Grant looked around the table. "Options." Powell stood up. "We can't win a traditional battle, but we don't need to." He activated the holographic display. "Instead of waiting for them to reach Earth, we take the fight to them. The Defender is faster and more maneuverable than anything we've built before." "You want to attack an alien fleet with one ship?" Delgado asked incredulously. "Not attack," Powell clarified. "Distract. Draw them away from Earth. Make them chase us." Grant's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "A bold offensive instead of a defensive posture." "It's our only chance," Powell said quietly, "and we need to launch immediately. The Defender may not be perfect, but she's ready enough." Grant studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Prepare your crew, Captain. The Defender launches in 24 hours. The command center beneath Olympus Mons buzzed with activity. Dr. Olivia Wu, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stood before the gathered officers and scientists. Her presentation showed intercepted communications from the alien vessel that had destroyed the Reliance. "We've managed to decode some of their transmissions," she explained, pointing to symbols on the screen. "They call themselves the Vraxians. From what we can tell, they're a conquering species that has subjugated dozens of worlds." Powell leaned forward. "Do they always attack without warning?" "Yes." Wu nodded. "It's their standard procedure. First, they eliminate any defensive capability. Then they demand surrender from the civilian population." Admiral Grant frowned. "How do they view us?" "As primitives," Wu replied. "Their communications refer to humans as barely space-capable prey. They consider our technology rudimentary and our military strength laughable." Ray snorted. "They're in for a surprise." Wu continued. "The Vraxians have a rigid hierarchy. Their society is built on strength and dominance. They cannot comprehend being defeated by what they consider lesser species. It would violate their entire worldview." Powell stood up, an idea forming. "Then we use that against them." He moved to the tactical display. "We don't just need to fight them. We need to shock them." Over the next hours, Operation Thunderclap took shape. Instead of hiding or presenting a purely defensive posture, the Defender would stage an aggressive, seemingly reckless attack designed to confuse and unsettle the Vraxians. "Psychological warfare," Wright said, understanding Powell's plan. "If they think we're weak, then seeing us charge directly at their fleet will contradict everything they believe about us." "Exactly," Powell agreed. "We need to shatter their assumptions." Meanwhile, Engineer Delgado worked with crews across the solar system to upgrade Earth's remaining ships with makeshift versions of the Defender's technology. "It's not pretty," she told Grant during a status update, "but we've managed to retrofit 7 vessels with enhanced shields and weapons. They won't match the Defender, but they'll put up a better fight than before." Dr. Stanley entered the meeting room, excitement visible on his face. "Captain Powell needs to see this." They followed him to the shipyard's testing chamber. The Defender floated in a massive enclosed space, its engines glowing with a soft blue light. "We've completed the final calibration of the propulsion system," Stanley explained. "Watch." At his signal, the Defender's engines flared brightly. The ship accelerated so quickly it seemed to blur, reaching the far end of the test chamber in seconds. "That's twice the speed of any recorded Vraxian vessel," Stanley said proudly. "They won't be able to catch the Defender unless we want them to." Grant turned to Powell. "It's time to implement civilian evacuation protocols. Major cities need to start moving people to the underground shelters." Powell nodded grimly. "How much have you told the public?" "Only that we've detected a potential threat," Grant replied. "Full disclosure would cause panic." That evening, Powell met with his senior officers aboard the Defender. The ship hummed with energy as final preparations were made for launch. "We leave in 6 hours," he told them. "Our mission is to intercept the Vraxian fleet before they reach Mars orbit. We'll hide in Saturn's rings and strike their advanced scouts." Wright studied the tactical display. "The main Vraxian fleet is traveling in tight formation. If we can get them to break ranks and pursue us, we can lead them into the asteroid belt," Rice finished, "where our smaller ships will be waiting." Officer Ben Collins, the newly appointed tactical officer, looked concerned. "Sir, even with our speed advantage, we'll be severely outnumbered." "Numbers aren't everything," Powell replied. "The Vraxians have conquered their way across space without facing real resistance. They'd grown complacent." "And arrogant," added Wright. Powell looked around at his crew, all volunteers, all aware of the danger they faced. The Vraxians expect us to cower in fear. They expect us to beg for mercy when they arrive. Instead, we're going to bring the fight to them." He stood straighter, his voice firm. "They think humans are weak. By the time we're done, they'll never make that mistake again." Throughout the solar system, humanity prepared for war. As the Defender made final preparations to launch, a message was broadcast to all Earth forces. "Operation Thunderclap is a go. May God help us all." Saturn's rings provided perfect cover for the UNSS Defender. Ice particles and rocky debris drifted around the ship, making it nearly invisible to sensors. Captain Powell stood on the bridge, watching the main view screen as it tracked the approaching Vraxian fleet. 17 ships, reported Officer Collins from the tactical station. 1 large command vessel, and 16 smaller craft. Their advanced scouts should reach our position in 20 minutes. Powell nodded. "Status report. Engines at full capacity. Rays called from engineering. Shields are holding at 97%. Weapons systems online," added Dr. Stanley, who had joined the crew as weapons specialist. "Energy banks charged and ready. Communications ready to broadcast on all frequencies," Wright confirmed from her station. Powell took a deep breath. "Remember, everyone, this isn't about winning a battle. It's about making them chase us. We hit hard, make them angry, then run." The minutes ticked by in tense silence. Finally, Collins straightened at his station. "2 Vraxian scout ships approaching, sir. They're scanning the rings but haven't detected us yet." "Hold position," Powell ordered. "Let them get closer." The alien vessels moved with confidence, clearly not expecting any resistance this far from Earth. Their sleek, dark hulls were similar to the ship that had destroyed the Reliance, but smaller. "They're almost in optimal range," Collins whispered. Powell waited until the scouts were fully committed to their patrol route through the rings. Now, full power to engines and weapons. The Defender burst from its hiding place, ice and rocks scattering in its wake. Before the Vraxian scouts could react, the human ship fired its main energy weapons directly at the lead vessel. The shot struck precisely as the alien shields fluctuated in their 47-second cycle. The beam cut through the weakened shields and sliced across the Vraxian ship's hull, leaving a glowing gash. "Direct hit," shouted Collins. Powell leaned forward. "Target the second ship's propulsion system. Disable, don't destroy." The Defender's weapons fired again, catching the second scout as it tried to maneuver. The shot disabled its engines, leaving it drifting helplessly. "Open a channel," Powell ordered. Wright worked her console. "Channel open, broadcasting on all frequencies they might use." Powell stood tall. "Vraxian vessels, this is Captain Ethan Powell of the human warship Defender. We come in peace. This was merely a demonstration. Stand down your weapons and prepare for diplomatic communication." There was a moment of silence. Then Wright's console lit up. "We're receiving a response, sir. Video and audio." "On screen," Powell ordered. The main view screen displayed a Vraxian for the first time. The alien was tall and angular, with gray-blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. When it spoke, its sharp teeth flashed. "Human vermin," the Vraxian hissed. "I am Supreme Overlord Krastai of the Vraxian Collective. Your pathetic display of resistance is meaningless. Your world will fall, and your species will serve us or perish." Powell kept his expression neutral. "We prefer neither option, Overlord Krastai. We offer peaceful coexistence instead." The Vraxian's upper eyes narrowed. "Peace is for equals. You are prey." "Then you've misunderstood humanity," Powell replied calmly. "We suggest you reconsider while you still can." Krastai snarled. "Your single ship does not frighten the collective. The main fleet approaches, and we will crush you." "Perhaps," Powell nodded. "But first you'll have to catch us." He signaled Wright to cut the transmission. "The main Vraxian fleet is changing course," Collins reported. "They're moving to intercept us. All ships, not just a detachment." Powell smiled grimly. Perfect. They took the bait. Rise, give me maximum speed. Set course for the asteroid belt. The Defender's engines flared brilliantly as the ship accelerated away from Saturn, the disabled Vraxian scout left drifting in its wake. On the command ship, Krastai watched with rage as the human vessel fled. Pursue them, he ordered. I want that ship destroyed and its crew brought to me in chains. The Vraxian fleet changed formation, abandoning their direct course to Earth as they gave chase to the single human vessel that had dared to challenge them. In the asteroid belt, human ships waited in hiding, their captains watching nervously as the Defender raced toward them with the entire Vraxian fleet in pursuit. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was a perfect battlefield for the smaller, more agile human ships. Countless rocks, some as small as a fist, others as large as mountains, drifted in an endless dance. The Defender raced through this dangerous terrain with the Vraxian fleet in hot pursuit. They're gaining on us, Collins reported, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. Lead vessel is now within weapons range. Powell nodded calmly. Reduce speed by 15%. Let them think they're catching us. The Defender slowed slightly, and the first Vraxian ships closed the gap. Energy beams lanced out from the alien vessels, most missing as the human ship weaved between asteroids. 1 minute to the target zone, Wright called out. Powell opened a channel to the hidden human fleet. All ships, this is Captain Powell. Prepare to execute Battle Plan Delta on my mark. Throughout the asteroid belt, small human vessels powered up their systems. Many were converted mining ships, never designed for combat but now armed with weapons based on the Defender's technology. Their captains and crews waited tensely, watching as the Defender led the Vraxian fleet directly toward them. Entering the target zone now, Collins announced. Powell leaned forward. All ships, mark. The Defender suddenly dove toward a massive asteroid. At the same moment, mining charges previously planted throughout the region detonated. Hundreds of explosions rippled across the belt, sending thousands of rock fragments hurtling in all directions. The Vraxian ships, too close to change course, flew directly into this artificial meteor storm. Rocks smashed against their shields, the constant impacts draining their energy reserves. Two smaller Vraxian vessels collided while trying to avoid a particularly large asteroid fragment. Now, Powell ordered. From inside hollowed-out asteroids, human ships emerged. They were smaller than the Vraxian vessels, but far more maneuverable in the confined space of the belt. They attacked in groups of 3, focusing fire on single targets. Aboard one of these ships, Louis Reyes commanded a squadron. He had transferred from the Defender to lead this critical part of the operation. Target their propulsion systems, he ordered his ships. Remember the shield fluctuation cycle. Time your shots to the 47-second mark. The human vessels darted between asteroids, firing precisely timed shots at the Vraxian engines. 2 alien ships drifted helplessly as their propulsion systems failed. On the Vraxian command ship, Supreme Overlord Krastai raged at his subordinates. How are these primitives coordinating such an attack? Find their command signals. His tactical officer responded nervously. We cannot. Overlord. Their ships are using the asteroids to block our scans, and they keep changing communication frequencies. Meanwhile, the Defender circled back into the heart of the battle. Powell studied the tactical display, noting that the Vraxian formation had broken. Their ships were scattered throughout the belt, trying to target the agile human vessels. Shields at maximum, Powell ordered. Set course directly for the Vraxian destroyer at coordinates 227 Mark 89. Collins looked up in shock. Sir, that's a ramming course. I know, Powell replied grimly. But our shields are designed differently than theirs. Trust me. The Defender accelerated toward one of the largest Vraxian ships. At the last possible moment, Powell ordered, full power to forward shields. The Defender's experimental shield technology created a concentrated energy field at the bow of the ship. It slammed into the Vraxian destroyer like a spear, the concentrated force piercing through the alien shields and cutting the vessel in two. The Defender emerged on the other side, its shields depleted but its hull intact. "Shields recharging," reported Stanley. That worked better than expected. Throughout the belt, the battle continued. The Vraxian ships, designed for direct confrontation in open space, struggled to coordinate in the asteroid-filled environment. Their tight formation, once their strength, had become a weakness. Krastai watched in disbelief as his fleet indicator showed more ships dropping from combat status. The humans, these supposedly primitive creatures, were winning. "All ships," he finally ordered, "regroup at these coordinates. We will crush these humans with our combined firepower." But as his remaining vessels attempted to regroup, Admiral Grant's message reached Powell. "Thunderclap proceeding as planned. Earth defensive fleet is en route to your position. Hold them for 1 more hour, Captain." Supreme Overlord Krastai had never known defeat. For 20 cycles, he had led the Vraxian collective to victory after victory across 3 star systems. Now, aboard his flagship, he watched with growing rage as human ships continued to outmaneuver his forces in the asteroid belt. "Enough of this," he snarled to his officers. "I will take command personally. Bring the flagship into the battle." The massive Vraxian command ship moved forward, its weapons systems far more powerful than the smaller vessels. Green energy beams lanced out, destroying asteroids and creating clear paths for the remaining Vraxian fleet to regroup. Aboard the Defender, Powell received the warning from Collins. "Sir, the Vraxian flagship is entering the battle zone. Its weapons output is incredible." Powell studied the tactical display. "They're clearing the asteroids to neutralize our advantage." The Defender shook violently as a glancing hit from the flagship's weapons struck its shields. "Shields down to 40%, Stanley reported, working frantically at his station. "One more direct hit like that, and we're in trouble." Powell opened a channel to the scattered human ships. "All vessels, focus fire on the flagship's weapons arrays. Time your shots with the shield fluctuations." The smaller human ships responded, converging toward the Vraxian flagship from multiple directions. But the massive alien vessel's defensive systems were overwhelming, destroying 2 human ships within minutes. "We can't get close enough," Rise reported from his command ship. "Their point defense systems are too strong." Powell made a quick decision. "All ships pull back to secondary positions. Defender will engage the flagship directly." Wright turned to Powell in alarm. "Sir, we can't possibly." "We don't need to win," Powell interrupted. "We just need to hold them until Admiral Grant arrives." The Defender accelerated directly toward the Vraxian flagship, weaving through debris and energy beams. Powell ordered all power diverted to engines and shields, pushing the experimental ship beyond its tested limits. Intercepting a transmission from the flagship, Wright called out. "They're ordering all remaining vessels to form a defensive perimeter." "Perfect," Powell smiled grimly. "They're still focused on us instead of Earth." The Defender took another hit, this one heavier than before. The bridge lights flickered, and several systems went offline temporarily. "Shields at 25%, Stanley reported. "Hull breach on Deck 3. Emergency systems responding." Powell opened a channel. "Supreme Overlord Krastai, this is Captain Powell. Your attack on our vessel near Saturn was unprovoked. We offered peace." After a moment, the Vraxian leader's face appeared on the view screen. "You are prey, human. Your resistance is merely unexpected. It changes nothing." "I think it changes everything," Powell replied calmly. "You came expecting to find easy prey. Instead, you found humans." As Powell kept the Vraxian leader distracted, Wright worked quietly at her station. She had intercepted internal Vraxian communications revealing their true intentions for Earth. "Captain," she whispered, "I've got it. Their communications confirm they plan to enslave humanity. They've done it to 12 other species." Powell nodded slightly, then addressed Krastai again. We know what you've done to other worlds. That won't happen here. The Vraxian leader seemed surprised. You know nothing, human. We know enough, Powell responded. At that moment, new contacts appeared on the tactical display. Multiple ships entering the asteroid belt. Collins reported with growing excitement. It's Admiral Grant and the Earth Fleet. The UNSS Courage led a formation of 7 heavily armed vessels into the battle zone. Though fewer in number than the remaining Vraxian ships, they moved with precision and confidence. All Vraxian vessels, Admiral Grant broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Victoria Grant of Earth Defense Forces. You are outnumbered and surrounded. Stand down immediately. Dr. Stanley activated a special system he and Wright had developed. Communication array ready, Captain. We can broadcast directly into their systems. Powell nodded. Do it. Show them who they're really fighting. Throughout the Vraxian fleet, their communication screens suddenly filled with images from Earth's long history of warfare. Centuries of human conflict, innovation, and resilience flashed before alien eyes. They saw humans fighting against overwhelming odds, adapting to impossible situations, and surviving despite everything. On his flagship, Krastai watched in growing horror as he realized his grave miscalculation. These weren't helpless prey. Humans had been fighting and surviving against each other for thousands of years. Fall back, he finally ordered, his voice subdued. Retreat to Rally Point Alpha. The Vraxian retreat was cut short as another group of human ships appeared from the direction of Mars. These vessels, led by the newly constructed UNSS Vanguard, moved to block their escape route. The Vraxian fleet found itself surrounded, caught between 3 human battle groups. Aboard the Defender, despite the damage it had taken, Howell felt a surge of pride. Their desperate plan had worked better than anyone could have hoped. Message from Admiral Grant, sir, Wright reported. She's requesting permission to board the Vraxian flagship under a flag of truce. Powell raised an eyebrow. Bold move. Patch me through to her. Grant's face appeared on the view screen. Captain Powell, you've done remarkable work. Now it's time to show the Vraxians that humans know how to end conflicts as well as win them. Powell nodded. I'd like to join you, Admiral. I've seen these Vraxians up close. I know how they think. Agreed, Grant replied. And bring Officer Wright. Her communication skills will be essential. Within the hour, a small shuttle departed from the Defender, carrying Powell and Wright toward the massive Vraxian flagship. The alien vessel dwarfed their small craft, its dark hull scarred from battle. Do you think they'll honor the truce? Wright asked quietly as they approached. They're warriors, Powell replied. They respect strength. We've shown them ours. The shuttle docked with the alien ship. Powell and Wright followed Admiral Grant into the Vraxian vessel. The interior was strangely beautiful, with curved walls that seemed to absorb light. Armed Vraxian guards led them to a large chamber where Supreme Overlord Krastai waited. The Vraxian leader stood tall, his 4 eyes watching the humans carefully. You fight well for primitives, he said, his translator converting his clicks and hisses into English. We are not primitives, Admiral Grant replied firmly. We are humans, and we prefer peace to war. But as you've seen, we excel at both. For the next hour, they negotiated terms. The Vraxians would leave the solar system and recognize humanity as a sovereign species, not prey or potential slaves. In return, the humans would not pursue or attack the retreating Vraxian fleet. As they discussed the terms, Krastai studied the humans with growing curiosity. How did your kind advance so quickly? Your ships, your weapons, they are unlike anything we expected. Powell met the alien's gaze. Necessity. When we found the ruins on Europa, we knew we weren't alone. We hoped for friends but prepared for enemies. Wise, Krastai admitted. Many species we encountered were not so forward-thinking. As the meeting concluded, the Vraxian leader made an unexpected offer. Perhaps there is more to learn from humans than we anticipated. As reparation for our unprovoked attack, I offer knowledge exchange. technology, star charts, cultural information. 6 months later, the Defender glided silently through space, its hull repaired and upgraded with some Vraxian technology. On the bridge, Captain Powell looked at the view screen where a small space station floated against the backdrop of stars. The first human embassy in interstellar space, Wright said, standing beside him. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have believed this was possible. The space station served as neutral ground between human and Vraxian territories. Diplomats from both species worked there, slowly building understanding between their civilizations. Admiral Grant joined them on the bridge. The Defender has new orders, Captain. You're to lead a diplomatic mission to Vraxian space. Show them who we really are. Powell nodded. And the treaty? Holding well, Grant replied. The Vraxians have spread word about humanity to other species. It seems our reputation has grown. Thousands of light years away, a Vraxian communication vessel encountered an unknown alien ship. The alien craft approached cautiously, scanning the Vraxian vessel. The Vraxian captain sent a message to the curious aliens. Approach with caution. The humans are coming. Do not fear. They offer peace first, but their warships are always ready. The message spread across the stars, passing from species to species. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals worthy of respect. And throughout the cosmos, the phrase "human worship incoming" no longer inspired fear, but rather a complex mixture of caution, curiosity, and hope.